Hey everybody, Shell Brodnax here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I love doing these webinars. We get so many great questions from people. So what I'm going to do is I've done just a screen PowerPoint with the questions that were submitted when you guys signed up for the actual webinar. And I apologize in advance, my dog's about ready to bark at the same UPS guy that's been coming here for 2 years. So if you hear her in the background, my apologies on that. My name is Shell Brodnax. I'm the CEO of RESA. For those of you who don't know, RESA is a not-for-profit trade association for real estate stagers, which means that I don't own RESA. There is no ownership. We're not a private company. We're an actual legitimate trade association. So we have a board of directors. We have volunteer leadership and government, where we have local chapters, state presidents, and then a national board of directors as well. So I want to thank everybody for jumping on the call on the webinar today. And like I said, you've already submitted your questions in advance. So I'm going to go over them one at a time. And there's times that I notice that when we get these types of questions, I'm actually going to probably answer things in a way that you might not be used to. So I might answer the question with a question to try to reframe your thinking. That I can tell from the way that the question was asked is, I want you to look at it differently. So if anybody has any questions as I'm going along, just go ahead and type up in that chat box and I will keep up with them. If I see a question that you're asking in the chat box that I know is coming in a couple slides, I probably won't address it in the chat, but I will get to it. And then at the very end, we'll open it up for all types of questions if there's something that I did not answer. So here's a great one. I'm in Alabama, and it's really hard sometimes getting realtors to understand stagers are a benefit to them. Any suggestions? Yes, absolutely. You don't only want to let them know what's the benefit to them, but what is it a benefit to their client? So the bottom line comes down to this is homeowners, when they decide to sell their home, that's their number one asset. Most people, their number one asset is the equity that's in their home. It's their little nest egg that they're just trying to hang on with every penny that they can, because eventually one day when they need to downsize and they're getting older and they're wanting to retire, a lot of people will downsize, use the equity in that home to help fund the rest of their years so they're not eating cat food when they're 65, 70 years old. And they trust a real estate agent to take that number one asset and to get the most money that they possibly can. Staging, simply put, is merchandising somebody's number one asset, their home. So when you explain this to a real estate agent, it's getting them to understand that this is a product. Their home is now a product, and the product is going on the MLS, which is like a store shelf. Except now, instead of people having to get in their car and drive around on a Sunday morning looking for open houses with a newspaper, they're sitting in bed at night or on public transportation in the morning going to work or at lunch or on their phone, and they're looking at any real estate site, realtor.com, let's just use that for an example, and the drive-by is literally seconds. Swipe, click, next. And if that listing does not grab somebody right there by their tablet, by their phone, and get them to expand on that first picture and look at the rest of the photos, you're dead in the water because they swipe very quickly. So it's click, you're done, you're moving on to the next one. The properties that get the most attention now because they're online are the ones that look the best. I actually have been watching the real estate market in North Carolina for about 1.5 years. I'd like to relocate there, and I'm horrified at some of the things that I see. Not just in North Carolina, let's be fair to the North Carolinians, although people love their wallpaper there, I will tell you that. And it all looks like China. And everywhere that you look for a home, you see listings. Some are staged, some look great, some are not. And they're all being compared to each other. So when somebody's looking for a house, no matter where they are, it's about getting a buyer in the door. So those are the types of things that you want to explain to them. There's lots of analogies. Why does staging work? Here's a great question. Why does it work? Because it's merchandising. Even the marketers have realized this. So it's one of those things that even when you go into a grocery store now, the generics actually look like brand names. So I don't know if anybody's out there that remembers back in the 70s, the generic products were actually yellow and black or white and black, and it just said beer or cola. And those are the generics. You don't see those anymore because the marketers understand that it is important for things to be merchandised in order to attract more people. If anybody ever loses audio, I'll say this now for those that can hear, and I'm typing it for those that don't. If you lose audio, just reconnect. It's not a problem on our end. It's something on your end. So there's nothing that we can do to kind of poke that along. And I also want to ask, does everybody see the actual slides that have the questions on them? Make sure that that is working. Yeah, just reconnect. Awesome. Okay, what's the average price for staging a family room, master bedroom, and kitchen? No real way to answer that. And I want you to look at it differently. So it's not really what's the average that you want to be after. It's really what is it going to take for you to be able to make a profit? Now, you do need to know what fees are in your neck of the woods. So if you're part of a RESA chapter members are usually very, very willing to share some information. You want to get into a range. I certainly would never, there's another slide down the line that's going to talk about pricing. And I just recommend that you're competitive or slightly above what's being competitive. You've got to be in the realm. And the worst thing you can do for your business is be the low price leader. No low price leaders. You don't want to do that. RESA did collect some survey results on pricing, and we have it on our website. So if you go to the realestatestagingassociation.com website, and then there you click on its resources, and then RESA publications, you're going to get a lot of publications on there. So you can look for the one on pricing. And we do have some averages that were taken about 2.5 years ago. So you can find averages. Some states we have listed individually. If we got the data there, we could report back. If we don't have the data, it won't be in the report. So you can check out certain things, and it goes by square foot, not necessarily these particular rooms, although those are the key rooms. So we usually stage a minimum of 5 weeks. What's the average time frame? Most stagers do their initial staging contract for 60 days, and then it's renewable every 30 days after that. That is what is typical and standard in the industry. The key is that you want to be able to have your staging out there for enough time for them to get all the contingencies removed. So you want to get through escrow, you want to get down to your closing, and that's when you're going to want to take it out. Because if something goes wrong with that listing, a lot of times a homeowner or an agent will say, pull the staging, we got the offer, we accepted it. Well, an accepted offer is great. And however, until it's closed, it ain't yours. So if they pull out everything ahead of time and then escrow falls through and something horrible happens, now they've got to restage it. And they're going to ask you, that stager, can you come stage it for free? It didn't work out, and they'll never quite understand why they have to pay again. So I always recommend do your first 60 days. If it sells quickly, that'll do everything that you need to do to get it through escrow. What resources are there for scheduling and have clients pay online for appointments? I think I understand what you're asking. So there's scheduling. You can use a CRM, different CRM. Stagers are kind of all over the place on this. We actually have somebody right now that's working on putting a CRM together just for stagers. But there's 17 Hats, there's Zoho, lots of them out there. So I would look for a CRM. A lot of stagers are using Squarespace or QuickBooks for their payments online to be able to send an invoice that way. Some stagers are doing wire transfers. I highly recommend that you go the wire transfer route, especially if you want to avoid the credit card fees. Not all states allow you to put a surcharge or a convenience fee on a credit card fee. A lot of places say, oh, pay 3% extra. Well, most of the states, it's illegal to do that. Check your own state. It's called the Visa MasterCard Act. And you can also do the wire transfer. So it's actually just from their bank to your bank. So you can look into that as well. Are there any go-to paint colors for 2019? You know, this is a great question, and I'm going to answer it kind of funny. And I'll tell you why it's funny. Because I love the staging industry. I can't stand staging. Which means that I'm the business end. If there's anything you want to learn about the business end of staging, I am your gal. I can close a sale. I can get somebody on board. I can convince the husband that doesn't want to do it to begging you to come in and stage the property. Anything business. out there, that's what I'm more focused on. The paint, the color, the sofas, the artwork does not interest me in the slightest bit. I can do it. I don't like to do it. So my answer to that would be, if I was going to do it, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't look at it as their go-to paint color for 2019. Every project's an individual project, and you need to choose the correct paint color that's right for that particular project. So paint colors, I always recommend going with neutrals and bringing in color through your art and accessories and your furniture. So that's what I recommend. Now, if you want to learn more about color, go to the RESA website, realestateStagingAssociation.com, hover over the word education, and you're going to get a drop down, and one will say color. And there's a couple color classes on there. If you take one of those or reach out to those gals there, they're experts in color. I'm not, so I'm not even going to try to fake it. What is a competitive rate to charge? This is a great question, and it's not one easily answered because I have no idea where you're located, and I have no idea what's going on in your local area, but I want you to look at this a little bit differently and think of it this way. Again, you don't want to breed that low price leader, because agents and homeowners, they usually go out and they get a couple different bids. And then the biggest mistake that somebody that is new into the industry will happen is when they go out and they underbid everybody else just to get that job. You need the photos, you need a job, you need just one client, you just need a foot in the door. It's the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you if you do it by being a low baller. And number one, that client's always going to expect that from you. And I know this, like I know I'm waking up in the morning. It happens, and they will hold you to that for the rest of your relationship. I have somebody that I have been working with for over 10 years, did me a favor, and I'm never going to get out of it. I'm going to owe this person until I am dead, because that's what they think, and it's very difficult to get out of it. So when I'm looking at pricing, think of it this way. You usually have kind of different levels of people in their businesses, right? And you have, let's just use restaurants for an example. You've got a fast food restaurant, Burger King, McDonald's, Subway. That's a lower price level. Then you get a higher price level restaurant, and maybe that's a decent Mexican restaurant. That's not quite a chain, but it's a really good restaurant. They're a little bit more expensive in their pricing, and you're getting a little bit better stuff. And then you've got your really nice elite restaurants that you're going to. That's just gorgeous food, real chefs, and you're going to pay top dollar. Well, what kind of business are you? Are you the Subway stager? Or are you somebody that is a higher end that's bringing really great qualities to what you're doing? So I would recommend that if you can get other stagers in the area to tell you about where they're pricing, not how they're coming to it or anything, but just that you don't want to be an underbidder. I personally would bid it at the higher end, because again, how do you want to look to a potential client? So there's always going to be somebody that's a price kicker, they're a tire kicker. They just want the lowest price. And if you advertise the lowest price and you put it out there, that's all you're going to attract are people that want a low price leader. And they are typically pitas, big time. And flippers are the worst. And Carol, you just made it. They want a deal at the start, and they're going to tell you that they're going to have more business for you, and it never comes through. And the business that they do come through, again, it'll be 10 years and you'll be still paying the same price. So I recommend that you price in the upper level of the range. What are some good ways to manage inventory as a newbie? Same way that you'd manage it if you were in it for 10 years, except I strongly recommend that you start managing it from day one. Here's another mistake that new stagers make, and it's the same sentence for a couple things. Once I get a few jobs under my belt, give me a year until I'm making some money, then I can afford to do X, Y, Z. And the things that they are trying to afford to do X, Y, Z are things like build an amazing website. So instead they go to a GoDaddy or a Squarespace, something that doesn't look great. They don't know how to do it, and it actually looks like a hobbyist did it, but they don't realize that. But that's the first impression that they put out, because they wouldn't invest in paying a real web person who knows what they're doing to make you look amazing, and they don't want to do that. Same thing with inventory management. And this is why I want you to look at things a little bit differently with inventory management. And the investment that you're going to make in a program for inventory management is going to save you tons of money down the line. So you are going to pay a monthly subscription fee to either Darby or Stageforce. If you go to the RESA website under the resources, you're going to find inventory management, and they're both there. But I think it's mydarby.com and stageforce.com. You can check them out, and I'm going to type them here in the chat box. I believe those are the correct domain names. So go to both of them, check them out, do some demos, ask other stagers who's having more success with what, and do it from the beginning. As soon as you start building your inventory, here's why. That all added up, wait until a year until I've made some money so I can afford a subscription service. I mean, even if it's only 20, 50 bucks a month, whatever it is, even $100 a month, it's not 100, but if it was, it'd still be worth it. Because what's going to happen in a year when you've bought all your inventory and you've got all this stuff, now you've got to catalog it. And now you will have spent more money paying somebody $15 an hour to catalog everything and to get your system up and working. So if you do it as you go, and it's going to be just so much better for you. So check out those two and get it done quicker rather than later. How do you get permission to use MLS photos for your portfolio? Great question. And I'm also going to, when I have questions like this that I want to educate somebody on, so it's like they're really not MLS photos. There are photos that go on the MLS. But I do know what it is that you're asking. And my question is to you is, why would you want to get your own photos? So here's the thing with photography. Photography rights and copyrights go to the photographer. Photographers sell a limited license agreement to real estate agents who buy those photos to be able to put them on the MLS and on their websites. Okay, that's wonderful. And now a lot of times the stager will go to the real estate agent and say, hey, can I have those photos? And the agent says, why, of course you can. I bought them. They think they're theirs when in reality they're not. I actually know a stager who got sued by a photographer for over $25,000 because she was using the photos that the agent gave her. The agent does not own the rights to the photos. They own it for their exclusive usage, which means they can't share them with anybody else. So one way I want you to look at this as well is you can go to a photographer and ask if the agent is paying for the photography and you saw some photos that you just have to have for your website. Go to the photographer and ask them to sell you the photos. That way you have permission to use them. In addition, for the staging projects that are really good, and when you're wanting those photos for your website, hire your own photographer. A lot of stagers will actually add that as a value on to their business where they have a great relationship with a local photographer. They're including that in their staging. Of course, you just, put that fee into your bid. You don't line item it, but you just account for it in the money that you're going to be receiving. So you're not at a loss for anything. You get the photos and they're great for your website. So I'd always recommend that you get professional photos on your website. You should never, ever, ever, ever put an after photo on your website that's not professional photography. You're stagers and you want to be able to walk the talk. You're teaching people about first impressions. So it's really ironic and kind of important that when you are discussing your first impressions with people about them making a great first impression to buyers, and then you have a website that's not absolutely stunning, it's really hard for people to take you seriously. So you really want the professional photos on your website. Otherwise, you look like somebody who's doing it for a hobby. So what are some of the effective low-cost marketing techniques being used for booking staging jobs? And what internet sources are being used? What are some of the effective low-cost marketing techniques being used for booking staging jobs? Kind of not really sure the direction of the question. I could see this could go a couple ways. If you happen to have submitted this question, go ahead and type in the chat box if you can clarify a little bit more, and I'll kind of keep talking what I think it is that you're meaning. Low-cost marketing techniques. If you are meaning that, what is a good way to be able to do low-cost marketing so people are attracted to you? There's lots of things that you can do. Networking, volunteerism. I'm a big proponent of getting involved on the local level in a local women's council or local association of realtors, a RESA chapter. Get involved. If you want business from real estate agents, you need to hang out where they hang out, and you need to infiltrate their area. So that's what I recommend. However, I'm kind of a chatty individual, and some people don't like that. They don't like the networking. They don't want to go out and do that. So if it's a square peg round hole, then you've got to find other ways to be able to do it. And I would recommend marketing directly to homeowners. And I believe there's a slide coming up where I'll talk a little bit more about that. If I didn't answer the question, go ahead and type it in here. If you submitted this and I didn't quite hit it right, just go ahead and type the question in what you really wanted me to say or to answer, and I will readdress it. And I'm just typing a note here for somebody to reconnect. If you lose it, just reconnect. What's a typical target profit margin on staging jobs? Excellent question. When you're first starting out and you're very small, the reporting that I've been back with people are they were usually about the 15%. So your goal is you want to get to 30%. So when you really have everything going on, you've got your systems down and you know what your profit margins are, aim for 30%. What's the most overlooked or forgotten issue or area that most stagers miss? See, now this, I don't know if the question is meant for problem areas in a house with actual staging, or if it's what are you missing with your own business. So if you submitted this question and you can clarify, go ahead and stop and type it in. So Pat and Vicky, okay, you both have the question about images. I'll get to that in a second. So the most overlooked things, I think that when it comes to your business, it's really about making the first impression. People overlook just so many things that they can do on their website to position themselves better and to not look like a hobbyist. So they really miss the mark on that. And then for inside of the house, I think a lot of times I see new stagers angle furniture, and it drives me cuckoo. And you don't always put everything on an angle. I see so many bedrooms, the secondary bedrooms where there's a twin bed and it's flying out of a corner. Stop. Don't do that. Make a real bedroom. And they don't make things look real enough. So their staging that is so scant. It's not polished. It doesn't look healthy. It doesn't look robust. So they use too little into a room, and then the wrong things in the wrong places. So what I recommend that people do, anybody who's new starting out in the industry, I highly recommend that you go to Home Staging Industry Awards.com and look at the winners. We have top 10 lists, and you'll be able to see who the actual winners are. So if you study people's work that are actually winning awards, it'll be able to fill in a lot of those blanks, especially when it comes to the design blanks and the ideas. A lot of people I see, they miss the mark when they're working with a focal point, especially in a living room, and when that focal point is dead in the middle of the room with a fireplace. I see a lot of people putting the sofa perpendicular to facing the actual fireplace, instead of maybe putting one on the left side, one on chairs, or another sofa on the right side, and making a conversation piece. If anybody looks up the Home Staging Industry Awards, you'll see exactly what it is that what I'm referencing. Has anybody approached photography students from a local college to start out if you can't afford a real photographer? I actually have not heard of that, Nikki, but that's really a good idea. This was a question that came up in the chat box. But the other thing that I would want to say is the world is full of money. Afford it. It's an investment. So you can afford a real photographer. You've got to position your business correctly in order to be able to have those funds. So it's very, very important. Most photographers, I think, are running around $300 or $400 for some photos. Definitely worth the investment. What are the current rates charged in Florida for staging or any state? And is there a typical rate for home stagers? There's not. And again, it's really difficult to look at the rates of what's going on, but look in the RESA website, go to resources, and then go to the publications and find that pricing report, and you can see some pricing. But again, if you price just by what the report says, or you price just because what one stager says in your area, you could put yourself out of business quickly. you need to look at your expenses. So it's really about charging enough to figure out what are all your expenses for a particular job. And when I say all, I mean all: driving, gas, your insurance, your overhead, your staff members, your delivery fees, you name it. It's all got to be in there. And then how much do you need to be able to make a profit? And then I would say just smack that number on top of it, and that's your fee of what you're charging somebody. So sometimes stagers, they really overthink it and they want a formula like a square foot or times this by this. You can figure out your own formulas, but the bottom line comes down to, what does it cost you to do the job? And then how much money do you need to make on top of that to make it worth it, to get out of bed in the morning and to be able to make a profit? So if it's $1,000 you need to clear on each job, take your expenses for that job, tack on $1,000, see what that looks like. If it's $1,500 you need to make, put $1,500 on it. Try calculating your fees that way and see how it looks to you. It's the best way to target homeowners, marketing directly to homeowners, lectures, flyers. What's the best ROI for marketing directly to homeowners? Same question for builders. Okay, I love this question. This is one of my favorite things to do. You can go to probably any of the real estate websites out there, realtor.com, Zillow, and whatnot, and they all have search features. The one that I know for sure is Redfin, and I'm sure the other ones do as well. You can get notifications on things, but Redfin, you can actually do a search within a certain geographic area. And with that, you can download all the listings. So if you can sort them by how many days they are on market. So what I would do, I actually teach a class called Trailblazing Marketing for Real Estate Stagers. And in a nutshell, this is what you do. You find all the listings that are older listings that have been on the market an extended period of time, unsold, have photos online that you know you can help. So obviously it's probably something that hasn't been staged, or maybe it's vacant. What you need to do is you need to create an amazing flyer. And when I say amazing, I mean amazing. And it needs to have what your claim to fame is. So claim to fame is a statistic of another listing that you've done that was really impressive that you can put on this flyer. So you can put language on the flyer like, has your home been on the market for more than 90 days and still hasn't sold? Your company name can help. Call us today. We just staged this listing in your neighborhood, or we just staged this listing. It sold in 5 days for $20,000 over list price, whatever the claim to fame is. Put your best work out there. Put your best photography on it. And the flyer has to be professional. You cannot use clip art in the file. It cannot look like you did it if you don't know what it is that you're doing. It is worth it to hire somebody to do these for you, because the impression that you're making, if you send something that looks homemade, somebody's going to look at it and they're not going to take you seriously. So that's what I recommend that you do. And then what I recommend that you do is keep track of it. So in that Excel spreadsheet that you're able to download, you can actually add some columns to it, and then you can track. You send a marketing message on one day, and then in 7 or 8 days, mail them another one and snail mail it to them. Mail them another one and have it be a different listing. And then if you do homeowner workshops, which I highly recommend that people do, you can do a home sellers workshop where it's teaching them how to stage the home themselves. It's occupied. You target occupied homeowners, and then you send them a flyer about your workshop. They're still going to pay for you as a consultation. The workshop is simply a consultation done in a workshop setting with multiple people at one time. So you can advertise your workshop. You can get people to send you pictures ahead of time. They can come in. You can have some little snacks. You have a projector, and you go through each project one at a time with their photos and giving them feedback on what they can do. It's like getting a consultation again, but it's all in the same place. Builders, go back to this for a second. Keep track of everything. So on day 1, you sent this flyer. Day 2, you sent this one. And then over time, you're going to be able to track your results. So then you'll be able to figure out, hey, you know what? On average, it takes about 3 mailings for somebody to actually respond to one. And so you'll be able to develop your own formula and be able to do that on a regular basis. So same question for builders. Builders, you can also do workshops for them. You can contact builders and let them know that they need to stage their listings. You need to educate them. Most of them already realize this because there's certain homes that don't need staging, and those are the ones that the flippers buy. You can't, if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. So the investors buy the homes that are going to be flipped. They're just in a shambles when they get them. They're not staged, obviously, which is fine. And then they're going to put all that work into it. And then like, really, you're not going to merchandise this property? So it's just all about effective communication and being able to communicate to the builders the same concept of why it is that they need to stage the home. So if you go into builders' offices, you can go to a builders association meetings. I would join as an affiliate member of theirs and just kind of infiltrate the same way that you do with real estate agents. Is it okay to offer free consultations at charity events? And what language is good to offer services without lessening the value of the service? Lessening the value of service won't even be a concept that you'll have to deal with because your services are professional and worth something. So change your thought process on that question and have it be about the fact that your service is awesome, that you can help people. It's an occupied consult. You put the value of it on there, whatever it is, write up the certificate, have great marketing collateral that comes along with it, especially a lot of times they do silent auctions. Have it be amazing. You can have a little book, a little lookbook, you know, your little portfolio in a book so people can see what it is. You get some great marketing collateral and you can certainly do that. I wouldn't do consultations for free to get photos. And I wouldn't, I'm losing my train of thought here because I was reading two things, so I apologize for that. I'm going to end it on that because I see this question over here from Laura. I thought with RESA you couldn't use stock photos, but have to use your own photos. That is correct, Laura. That's correct. No stock photos. So I don't know if maybe somebody misheard me. I didn't say use stock photos on the last one. You said use your best photos of your best work on the flyers. Anything that you send out, all your marketing collateral should have the absolute best of the best. Software or inventory tips for organizing your items. Best way to arrange inventory. Darby and Stageforce are the inventory tracking software that stagers are using, and the best way to arrange your inventory. You can get a lot of tips on this. If you go to any of the RESA events, RESACon, where we always have a session on warehouse and storage, but ultimately you have to find kind of what works for you. What works for one presenter, they'll have a lot of great ideas, but your warehouse might be set up a little bit differently. So you have to just think strategically in how you're going to arrange your furniture. So we can give you some obvious tips. If you have a double, a mezzanine or any type of up-leveling in your warehouse, a second story, obviously you're not going to put sofas up there. You're only going to put your lightest materials up there, your soft goods, pillows, things like that. So you just want to make things smart decisions. So what's easy to get in, what's easy to get out, and then your packing. It's very important to properly pack your inventory as well, so it doesn't get scratched up. Vicky's questions: if you don't have photos yet or know where to get your images before and after staging, where do you get images before and after staging? Vicky, you take them yourself. So you cannot use stock photos. If you're a stager and you are using stock photos, it is the most unethical thing that anybody can ever do. It's not your work, and it's lying and it's misleading. So what you do, if you don't have any at all, you live in a home. In your home, you have rooms. Take a picture of a room before and then stage it. Make it look stellar. Do a neighbor, do your cousin, your sister, your mother, your brother, your father, anybody. You've got friends. You have resources that you can come in. And most everybody, if you ask your circle of people, they'd be happy to help you out. So you can do a couple of those in order to get the photos. It's a really great idea. Again, use the professional photography when you're doing it. What should you bring to an initial consult? A great question. So this is what I recommend. I am actually recommending the walk and talk consults. People used to do the first 10 years or so in the industry, people were doing written consultations. So they'd come out, they'd look at the property, they'd take all their pictures, they'd go back home, they'd sit down and try to do a Word document or a PowerPoint or something along those ways to insert the photos and give a written synopsis of what somebody would do to that particular home or that particular room. Most people are doing the walk and talk now. It's because the written, it's going to take you hours to go back home and do that. And if you're only charging $250 for a consultation, it takes you 5 hours to do your presentation, to get your consult done and email it back to them. You're not making any money. So the occupied consultation, when you go, you're going to go from room to room and tell the client every single thing it is that they can do in order to stage the property. They're going to take the notes themselves. Now, I would also leave some leave behinds. And what I recommend for that is, again, great marketing collateral. You should have a folder beautifully branded with your information. Your business card should be in there. Articles that you're writing for your blog, because we all know you're writing articles for your blog. If you're not, you should. Get those out and print them on fantastic paper, good quality paper. Take some of the RESA reports that we have, any information from RESA. The Consumer's Guide to Real Estate Staging has a section that is about a 6-week moving checklist. You can actually download the PDF, print out that moving checklist for them, and put that into the folder. So you just want to leave them information, statistics, maybe some decorating tips, some organizing tips, anything that's going to help them to be able to carry out your instructions on the consult and to be able to get them to move. So anything that's helpful that you can leave behind is what I would recommend that you bring. You also want to bring your paint decks. If you're somebody that carries, fabric swatches and things like that, you can always have them if there's a time that you're going to need them. Sometimes you might have a swatch of something, and to be able to say, you need this type of material and buy these pillows. And they're like, I don't know what a chenille is. And then you say, oh, I will show you. And then you bring it out and then you can show them. Or they say, here's something, you want to get some artwork with a chevron pattern. What's a chevron pattern? Well, here it is right here. So you can bring that. You can also bring your lookbook, your portfolio. If you have something that's printed, you can bring that as well. And you can also show people on a tablet about your work. So you want to be able to show people your portfolio as well. Also, in the leave behind that you're leaving with them, have testimonials in there. Great testimonials. So what's the best way to approach realtors to start building a relationship? I prefer a stealthy kind of invasion myself. And again, that for me, it's the networking. But it works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. So it's just building a relationship and being honest with people and speaking passionately about what it is that you do. You can do workshops. You can teach classes. There's an MCE class that RESA has that's approved for continuing ed credits in about 17 different states. The states we're not approved in, we can get approved in. So you can look into do that and becoming an approved instructor if you've been in business for more than a year. You can look to do that. So you can build relationships that way. So you could be standing up in front of 20 real estate agents to teach a class. You're teaching from your heart. You're not selling yourself. It's not about you. It's not about your business. You're actually being elevated as a real estate expert, a real estate staging expert that's an instructor that's going to teach them about why they need staging, how it works, how to explain it to their clients. So when you come in as the expert, you don't need to sell yourself because you're already sold by default. And all of the real estate instructors that we have all received business, and you also make $35 a student. So it's a win-win for everybody. So I highly recommend that. But I also, again, I recommend getting involved. Go to some of their events, go to a marketing meeting, go to a luncheon, go to a fashion show, a crab feed, whatever that they have going on, go. And just go and be. Don't go and say you're going to go hand out 50 business cards and you're going to take 50 business cards and then you come home and you put them into your database and you email them. Just go and don't shove yourself down their throat. Go and build relationships with people. Just talk to them about everyday things. When they ask you what you do, you can say your elevator speech and then end it. And it's like, hey, if you ever need help on a listing, let me know. I'd be happy to give you some feedback. And then when they call, then you can get them into an appointment. So just be very casual with them. Realtors are sold all day long. They have got title hitting them up, attorneys, mortgage lenders, home inspectors, home warranty, stagers, you name it, they're getting hit up by everybody. What are the essentials that a beginner needs? Good question. Training. I highly recommend training. If somebody has not gone through a core foundation training to learn how to start a business, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. It's something that you don't know what it is that you don't know. And you can jump on a webinar like this. I'm going to be here for an hour and all the information that I give you, I know is amazing and life-changing for everybody. I'm not going to cover it all. So I do recommend highly that you get into a class, get your foundation in, and then start to grow your business. And then as you start to grow and as time goes on, you're going to have different types of needs. But if you're looking besides training, the obvious, your phone, a computer, a website, your marketing materials, a great business card, some collateral, marketing collateral, positive attitude, connections, networking, all those things about building a business. You're an entrepreneur. So you really want to do everything that you can to look like a successful entrepreneur. So everything it is that you do, you can do it one of two ways. It's either correct or it's not. It's either perfect or it's not. If you do anything that is less than and people can notice that, that's a red flag for them. It's a red flag when they say, oh, somebody's operating more like a hobby, or they're a newbie, or they're a beginner, than it is if they've been around for a while. You can be a newbie and a beginner and you don't have to look like it. You absolutely don't have to look like it, because you just need to invest in the right areas in your business to make everything that you're doing look amazing. Is it recommended to have a wide-angled lens for final photos? If you are taking your own photography, I would have all the lenses that you need. So you can do them when you need them. A lot of times people are doing some amateur photography and they make things look all fisheyed and wide-angled, and it stretches the photos. They need to be real. So if you are starting to get your feet wet with trying to take your own photos, take a class. I highly recommend taking a class. How and when do you ask for payment? When you send the contract, this is the payment that's due, and you ask for payment before you lift a finger for anything. It's one of those things that you don't get out of bed, don't go to a consult without it. You get it before you leave your house. Otherwise, people will stiff you, and you don't want that. See, Terry's asking a question in the chat. She's only completed a few occupieds, just moved to a more rural area with very few stagers. How's the best way to find colleagues to bounce ideas off, collaborate with, someone to help with staging? Great question. Facebook. Join our Facebook groups. If you're a RESA member, you can join the RESA group. If you're not, or even if you are, you can also join Stage It Forward. If you join those groups, there's lots of feedback. So people can post questions. Everybody else is going to run to answer it. You're going to get a lot of varying opinions. It does help to be able to do that. And depending on where you are, even some of the rural areas, even with a very few stagers, you can actually form a RESA chapter. So if you are in an area where we don't have a chapter, you can contact Gina at HQ, and I'm going to just throw her email in the chat, and you can ask her about what does it take to start a chapter. How often do you suggest blogging original content and about how many words? Great question, Deb. You know, when you're looking at the blogging on your website, a lot of people, you want to do your blogging to raise your SEO. And there's two ways that you can do this. One is you can write your typical articles, a how-to. If you got inspiration and you went to Home Goods and you saw a great pillow, take a picture of it in the Home Goods and then use it in a staging and write a short article that you love the color, you love the fabric, whatever it might be. It can be as short as 600 words. You just need the good keywords in there. And then the other blogging that you want to do is every time you complete a staging project, take those after photos and make a blog post out of it. The photos, again, they've got to be amazing. They've got to be nice and big, professional photos. Your company name, just staged this listing in city, state. List it and use those words because those are good SEO words at the very beginning. You want to have good SEO words in the very beginning of your sentence and then have them sprinkled throughout your website. So if you do a couple stagings a week, do one for each one of them. But if you can get some new content on your website twice a week, you're doing amazing. But you want to do it at least once a week. The more you do it, the more Google sees that your website is an actual moving website that has information on it. Okay, do I have recommendations on staging courses? Yes, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. What are the important questions to ask in a consultation? This is a really great question. And, you know, I always would recommend that you just get to know your people, get to know your clients. If you can get to know somebody and you can connect that with them on a personal level, everything about that business arrangement is going to go a lot smoother. So, how long have you lived here? Where are you moving to? What's going on with you? Why are you guys, why are you moving? It could be something bad that happened to them. And now and that's priceless information because you can handle things differently. Might need to be treating them with a little bit kid gloves if there's a death in the family or a divorce or something along those lines. So you want to figure out why are they motivated to sell? Why are they leaving? Where are they going to? Is there a strict time frame? All that type of information, you just want to investigate all of it. And that's going to give you the information that you need to be able to kind of seal some deals. So when you're doing a consult, if it's a DIY occupied, you're still going to give them everything it is that they need. But then at the end of it, because you've given them so much information, they may decide, well, how much does it just cost for you to come back and do the staging? And if you know some insight about their circumstances ahead of time, it's just going to be able to help you either get them to the next step. But let me warn people, don't go into a consultation thinking that you're a failure if you didn't upsell to a full staging. Wrong, complete attitude about it. If you get a consultation and you charge them, and I'm just going to use a round number, $300 for that consultation, you go in, you do it, you give it your all. You give them every single morsel of information that you have to give them, and you give it freely, and you walk away, and it doesn't matter if you don't get the upsell on a staging project because they paid you for a consultation. So a lot of mistakes that stagers make, I know you'll all laugh at this because I did, because it doesn't make any sense to me, is they were holding back in the consultation in hopes that they would hire that stager for the full staging. And so when I pointed out to the fact when this person wasn't getting any jobs for the full staging, it was like, well, why would they pay you even more money when they didn't get their money's worth in the first time? So give them everything it is that you've got when you're doing the consult. Most important rule to not forget in any property. It needs to look finished. And I'm going to use the analogy. You know how sometimes we see online what we call the agent staging or the vignette staging? It just looks empty. If it doesn't serve its purpose, don't do it. Vignette stagings, I would never, if I was a professional stager, I would never do these. They look unfinished. It looks like the stager doesn't know what they're doing, even when somebody asks you for it. And that's the perception that's out there. So you can be a stager and know 100% what you're doing. But a client hires you and say, I have a small budget, I can only do a vignette staging. So you go in there and do that. But the bottom line is this: when you see a vignette staging on the MLS at realtor.com, when you're looking, doesn't it look undone, like a hobbyist? And what's your first thing? Oh, they couldn't convince, or they didn't know what they were doing. So when other people are looking at, and even other listing agents are looking at that, and they know it's your work, it's a poor reflection on you, and nobody knows that it was a budget issue. So for me personally, owning a staging business, I would never offer the vignettes. It just looks unfinished. So I would say full staging and make everything make sense. It's got to look good. How do you handle moving your inventory to stage and destage properties if you're too small to have movers on staff? What percentage of staging costs should be moving costs be? Okay, so this is a tough question. If you're small and you can't afford to pay movers, you're probably not charging enough for your staging. So if you're in a conundrum, there's really you just have to do it yourself. That's however it is that you can do it. So unfortunately, I would be looking at your business model, and I'd be looking at your pricing structure, because you're not too small to have movers. Never too small to do that. You cannot afford a mover if you're not pricing correctly. But if you're pricing correctly, you can get short-term staff. You can get on-demand people to help you with things and develop relationships with people that you know that you're only going to call in a couple times a week, or maybe even if it's once a week, to be able to do that. And then what percentage of the staging cost should the moving cost be? I want you to re-examine that and think of it another way. It's not that it should be a percentage, it's what it is. You just add it in. Whatever the cost of moving, if you had to pay movers to come, part-time staff members to come and move, and you paid them out of pocket, you've got to include that into your staging bid. So you don't ever want to look at it like it's a percentage, like you can only allocate so much money out of that. You're looking at it from the opposite way. You need to figure out what your costs are first. Those are your costs. The cost is the cost of the cost. It doesn't matter. There's no negotiation, because you're not a charity to be able to give people things that you're not going to get paid for. So the cost of the moving trucks, the delivery fees, all of that, that's your set cost. So that's the way I want you to look at that, kind of reframe that a little bit. Coming from a different line of work, how do you establish credibility? Passion. Passion. It's really talking about it from a point of reference that you are excited about what it is that you're doing, and stage a few listings, stage your neighbor's house, stage a living room, show people what it is that you can do. So as long as you're able to present yourself in a professional manner and you can effectively communicate that you know what it is that you're doing and you're passionate about what you're doing and people trust you, people are going to believe that. People do business with you because a lot of times they trust you, not just because they have what it is that you need. So think about trust in building the relationships. What do you use for photos when you're starting out? Do you ever offer free staging in exchange for photos? I would never offer free staging in exchange for photos. You just devalued what you did and you just told people you were a newbie. So I wouldn't do that. They don't need to know you're a newbie. It's just like when somebody wants to set an appointment with you and you either don't want to do it at that time or whatever the reason is, you don't want to do it. You don't say, you know, I have gym class or I have yoga right then. I'm booked. They don't need to know everything about that. So when you are starting out, again, your own house, your neighbor's house, get photos somewhere. There's plenty of things that you can do to be able to get your own photos that you don't need a paying client for. You know people, use them. They will most likely let you do it. I don't know anybody that's ever asked somebody that had said no. Taxes, pay them. This is what the question was, y'all. So I'm so sorry. If you posted this question, you can clarify what it is that you need me to reflect on. So that would be fantastic. But taxes is that you absolutely have to do it. And you have to pay them and you have to look at advance. Now, I want to also mention some other things about taxes is that if you're buying wholesale, then you're going to have to pay your taxes on your wholesale purchases because they don't charge you sales tax because that's got to be reported. So you need to look into that as well. And if you got to be able to put enough aside out of every job for your taxes to be able to pay them quarterly. What training courses do you recommend? Have you heard of the ASP courses? I want to do a 3-day person in class. Yes. So what I recommend that you do is go to the realestatestagingassociation.com website, hover over the word education. You're going to get a drop down that says staging training. On that page, there are several. The first set of logos are accredited training providers. When these are RESA accredited training providers. And what this means is that we have reviewed their policies, their procedures, their training manuals, their email communications, and their fiscal soundness. We have 62 points that we must insist that a training provider teaches in order to receive our accreditation. So they have these big binders that you're going to get. And we go through page by page and we make sure that every subject matter is taught. Every staging training provider may teach things a little bit differently, and we want that because we want people to have different slant on things and people have different ideas. So we're not going to mandate how it is that they teach you, but we're going to mandate what it is that they teach you. So the first set of logos are the ones that are accredited, that have gone through our program. The next set are our affiliate training providers. And those affiliate training providers are ones that they haven't gone through the program. It doesn't mean they're not just as good. We can't say. They just haven't gone through the program for one reason or another. Everybody that's on our website is pre-vetted. Their references are checked. And they all agree to a trainer code of ethics, and they all agree to resolve conflict, and they all agree that if you take a class from them and something goes wrong and you're not getting anywhere and can't get something resolved, that you can file a complaint with RESA and we can jump in to help you navigate that. So what I recommend that you do is look online. Here are some here. And we recommend that you click on every logo. It will take you to information about their program and then follow through to their website. Click on every single one, go to their websites, cross off the ones that don't appeal to you for whatever reason, whittle that down to a smaller list, and then call them. But if you use this method, you are going to find one that's going to suit your needs. You might vibe with one a little bit more than somebody else. So if you use that, you're going to get the one that's going to be exactly perfect for you. Now, some of these are online, some of these are in person. So when you're starting to choose, there's some things that I would just tips that I want you to consider is one, if you don't have a home environment that's conducive to online learning, go to a class, go travel somewhere. And you are going to have to travel. Not all of these places you're going to have in your own backyard. And that's the other thing. When you're choosing a training provider, don't choose the one that is near you that you just don't have to travel to. Don't make the distance be your deciding factor. Make what they offer and what you need to be the deciding factor. So if you're at home and your day goes something along the lines of, Mom, where's my cleats? The dog just peed on the floor. When's dinner coming? I can't find my gym shorts. Homework's, just lost. The dog ate the homework, whatever. You might want to go to a 3-day class someplace else, and you can just check out and go to class. On the other hand, if you have an environment where you do really well with online learning, then go to an online class and try that. A lot of people do both. They take multiple classes from people. So this is what I recommend, the process that you use. I'm going to get to some of these questions off to the side here. For what reasons should we contact a lawyer? Should they review all of our contracts? You're in Georgia. Susan, one of the single most best investments that you can make in your business is paying for an attorney to do your contract. This is another mistake that new stagers make, is that they don't invest enough money in their contract, or they get it from a friend, or they find something online, they put it into their business model, and then they don't even realize what the contract states. They don't really have a firm understanding of it. And your contract should also be something that's moving and growing at all times. So if you come across a problem in a staging and I have to put that in my contract, add it into your contract for the next one. Get rid of the old one, put the new one in. If you hear somebody else who had a problem online and they're talking about that and that's not in your contract, think ahead of the game. If you think that's something that can happen, put that into your contract. I highly recommend that you get an attorney to do it. What do you need from your state for a trade discount? Okay, the correct language is that you're going to get a resale license or a resale permit, a seller's permit. They call them different things in different states. You can go to your Department of Revenue, Department of Taxation, Board of Equalization, Secretary of State. They're all called something different in every state. So you want to start there, and it's just a simple application online. Most places, you just do it online. In California, you can actually download it online. You can get it within 5 minutes. And then they have it set up, but then you've got to file your taxes with them when you're paying that back with your sales and use tax. What's the difference between RESA accredited training versus RESA affiliate training? Accredited training has gone through the accreditation process. Affiliates have not. Doesn't mean they're not just as good. It just means we can't say they are because they haven't gone through our program. They are all pre-vetted, all pre-screened, all references checked. So we had the question. I want to kind of go back to the question about taxes. We started this event called RESA Connect in Atlanta. And originally, we were having a lot of the seasoned stagers were asking questions about, if they've been in the business for 5 years or more, or 10 years or more, they're having a little bit different problems. And it's about, how do you develop an exit strategy? How do you retire? How do you build that team once you're ready to build the team? And we really felt that these were more seasoned stager type issues. And we planned this event, RESA Connect Atlanta. And in reality, these are issues that new stagers need to address, because again, these stagers, what's happening once they become in the business, they decide they want to sell it. What's been happening is they're reaching out to business valuators and to say, how much is my business worth? How do I sell my company? And the business valuators coming back to them and they're going, "Oi, you have to change everything about your business structure, and all the proof that you need are going to be able to give to a buyer. You've got about 2 to 3 years worth of more work in order to get your business in tip-top shape, staging your business in order to sell." So we're holding a Home Stager Wealth Expo and Buying Summit, February 28th and March 1st. February 28th is the day of the education. And so we're going to be having an actual attorney from Georgia, by the way, and he's also a wealth expert, a wealth management expert. He's going to be talking about different tax strategies that you can use. I actually just reviewed it today and I was so excited. And there's things that I didn't even realize. I mean, it's like I knew it, but I didn't realize it enough to be able to coach anybody on it. But you can reduce your overall tax liability by spending more in your business. It lowers the profit margin of the business from your book's point of view, which is okay because you're making your business more valuable and giving it more assets. So there's lots of tips and tricks and things that he's going to teach everybody. You need to decide, are you running a business or are you running a practice? Now, a practice is somebody that's more like a solopreneur. It's really just you. And if something happened to you, even if you had staff members, they could be part-time, they could be full-time. But if you're the driving force, something happens to you, what's going to happen to your business? How are you going to keep it going, even for you to continue to cut a paycheck if you fall and break your leg? If you die, the biggest exit strategy is death, is what he was saying in retirement, permanent retirement. So he's going to talk about different tax strategies. How do you categorize your assets? Whose assets do you put? What assets do you put in your name or a spouse's name, and how that can get you into a lot of trouble? So if you are ever going to think about selling a staging business, or you ever want to think about growing a team, this is a great event to be able to go to. It's February 28th. And again, March 1st is a tour of America's Mart. So we've also formed a buying group. And the buying group is additional discounts that you can get if you're going to buy wholesale. So any stager can walk into a wholesale provider, and I'll just use Elk Group International as an example. Anybody can walk in today or place an order online, and you can get their wholesale pricing, their designer showroom pricing. It's the first level that you get in. But if you want to get stocking dealer price, and that's the lowest price that you can get before you get to container pricing, where you're ordering 60 sofas in one container. And the stocking dealer is typically reserved for furniture stores, the really big ones. And if you're part of the RESA buying group, at Elk Group, if you weren't part of the group, you'd have to spend $15,000 with them in order to get stocking dealer price. With your part of the RESA buying group, you don't have to spend the $15,000, and then you're going to get, I believe it's 25% below stocking dealer price when you're part of that. So we're going to go on a quick tour of the America's Mart, and we'll turn people loose to be able to place some orders. Also check out RESACon Vegas. This is the largest event of the year. RESA Connect is going to be a very small group of people, probably somewhere between 15 and 30 people. Check it out. There's something here for everybody, but there's also Vegas in July. That's an amazing event. It's the biggest event of the year. That's where we have the Home Staging Industry Awards, and it's just fantastic. We had over 446 people this last year, and then you can also go to the Vegas market and hit that the following day, because on the 28th that market starts. Anybody can go to these. We have member pricing and non-member pricing. Doesn't matter if you've had training or not. So you're either a member of RESA or you're not a member. So if you're not a member, I suggest that you join, and that way you get the member pricing for all of our events. It always works that way. And that's it for me on these particular events. Any other questions, pop them in the side. I'm happy to stay on. It's a little after 5. If you have to drop off, go ahead and drop off. Everybody's going to get a recording, but if you have more questions, I'm totally able to sit here and answer them. So yes, Shavana, you can absolutely register for all of our events. You don't have to have the training in order to do it. Should you have a client sign the rental agreement at the furniture store and then upcharge on that, or when we sign the rental agreement in our name, worried about the liability? Okay, when you say furniture store, to me, that's sales. Do you mean rental store, like Court Furniture Rental, Susan? Try to answer it both ways. So stagers do things differently, and you can absolutely put Court. Okay, so let's use Court as the example. Okay, so you can put a lease in your name at Court, and you can get that. The longer you have your lease, the cheaper it is to rent it out. Okay, so if you rented, and I'm just going to use round numbers, if you rented furniture in a listing for 12 months, you're going to get probably their best pricing that they've got. You can take that furniture and you can move it to a different property. So if you rent in your own name, you can do that. If you rent in your own name and you put that furniture in somebody else's home, yes, you have to worry about liability, but there's some things that you can do to mitigate some really bad circumstances. Number one, if it's a vacant, great. It's vacant. It's not a problem. There's not going to be any pets or anything along those particular lines. However, in a vacant listing, there are the homeowner's insurance doesn't necessarily cover your inventory. So what happens is you put everything in a listing, and Court has what they call a damage waiver. And that's just like little small snag, a little small stain, little cleaning, average, small wear and tear. But if somebody breaks into that vacant listing and they spray paint everything, and yes, it's happened, or they roll up a moving truck at 3 o'clock in the morning and they empty that listing with every single piece of furniture, who's going to cover that? Who's going to cover that loss? So here's the thing with court furniture rental. Their damage waiver doesn't replace the furniture. So if it gets damaged or stolen or ruined or whatever, whoever's contract is the name is going to have to cover that. The homeowner might say, oh, we're covered. We have homeowners insurance. But here's the thing that most people do not realize, that homeowners insurance, most of it will not cover the contents of the home if it's been vacant for more than 60 days. So if it's been vacant for 60 days, anything that's in the home is not going to be covered if somebody comes in and spray paints it, tears it, or whatever they do with it. Now that's your own inventory if you own it, or if it's court furniture rental. Okay, so what I would recommend that you do if you are putting anything, especially in your name or even in the homeowner's name, if the homeowner signs the lease, they know exactly what the pricing is and it's in their name. But again, the homeowner's insurance is not going to cover it if they don't even own the inventory. So it's not likely it's going to cover it for court. But luckily that's okay, because I've been working on something for 16 years and I just got it taken care of. If anybody wants to click on that link, it's something called staging risk management. So what I've wanted to do for 16 years is to be able to have another policy that a stager or homeowner can get, that you won't have to use your policy. Because here's the thing about insurance. When you use your insurance, what do? They raise your rates, right? Well, even as little as one claim, a $5,000, $7,500 claim on your insurance policy to recover some loss, they cannot sign you again. A lot of times they're just going to drop you. So in order to avoid that, what I recommend that you do is use this amazing policy. That way your insurance doesn't have to take the hit and the homeowners doesn't have to take it, because this is what happens when the homeowner has a loss. Let's say the house burnt down. They're not going to cover anything because they don't know the inventory. The house was vacant, or maybe it was just spray painted up. It's in your contract that they're responsible for it. So that's great. They're responsible for it, but we all know about responsibility. Nobody wants to take it when you point it out that they need to. So what is going to end up happening, if there's any type of loss and you try to enforce that clause in your contract, then they don't want to do it. And then they realize that, oh my gosh, this person just put $30,000 worth of furniture in my house, and now I have to pay them $30,000 on top of everything. There's going to be a fight. I don't know anybody that would want to do that. So with the staging risk management policy, you can get a policy just for the contents, just for the inventory in that short-term listing. So you can get it up to $10,000, up to $20,000, or up to $30,000 worth of insurance, and it's very low cost. The highest is $100 or $300. I recommend that you put it in your contract, and you state in your contract, if you like the additional insurance coverage, check here, and then it's the flat fee. It's $300, and that way they've covered it. So you treat it similarly to like the damage waiver at court. It's just having them check that yes, they want it, or no, that they don't want it. And then you bill that in, and then you go online and you purchase the policy. I just posted a link in the chat box. So if anybody clicks on that, that'll take you to the RESA website and explain more about it. There's actually a little video on it. So that is something that I would highly recommend that people start using. Can you join RESA even though you're new without training? Yes, RESA welcomes everybody. We want you here. So you don't have to have any type of formal training in order to join the organization. Again, I highly recommend that you do get training, because again, y'all don't know what you don't know. So I strongly recommend that you do that. But yes, absolutely. Join us. We've got lots of resources. Actually, when you join RESA, you're going to get over $600 worth of webinars like this one and others that we've done in our learning library. So you can get all those at no cost. Otherwise, they're $50 each when you buy them. So it's really worth the effort to be able to do it. And then, of course, to get the events through the year. And then you can also join a chapter or start a chapter in your area. So any other questions that I can cover for y'all tonight, please just pop them up here in the chat box. We are getting ready to launch RESACon. Probably Monday, you'll see some information coming out, and get registered for that. We had 446 attendees. I highly recommend this event. We're also going to be covering the Wealth Expo strategies with some other professionals. So you want to check that as well. Is it better to get incorporated or an LLC. It's the same thing. So you're all incorporated. You're either a limited liability corporation or you're a S Corp or a C Corp. So with that, you need information from somebody that's going to help you with how the structure of your business is set up. There are different benefits to doing this. So I'm going to use California as an example. I don't know where you are, Laura, but in California, when you become a corporation, an S Corp or a C Corp, automatically every year you're going to pay $800 to the state of California just for having Inc. or LLC for that matter. So some people can do a limited liability, some are a sole proprietor. What this boils down to is really the structure of your business, how many assets that you have. Do you have personal assets? If you're a sole proprietor, somebody can go after your personal assets. When you're incorporated, they can only go after the assets of the corporation. RESA membership is, if you have been in business for under a year, you can get the regular membership. It's $130 a year. I'm posting the link again. It's under my name, Shell Brodnax. It's all lit up. So go ahead and check that out. And it's also on the RESA website. If you just go to the main real estate staging association.com, on the homepage, it says SRM, Staging Risk Management. You can get to it from there as well. If you've been in business for more than a year and you want to get the RESA Pro designation, you can do that. It's $225 to start. It's $190 a year to renew. And the RESA Pro designation, it's a higher level designation, and you cannot use any stock photos on your website at all. With a regular membership, we do allow for stock photos on your actual website, but you have to have a disclaimer at the bottom telling people that some of it is stock photos, but you're not allowed to use stock photos in your portfolio. As a RESA Pro, you cannot use stock photos anywhere. This is a higher level. This is about telling people you are really, really a great professional and you're taking your business seriously. You have a higher code of ethics due to those photo restrictions as well. And then we are adding on more benefits for RESA Pro as you go on down the line as well. Any recommendations to go to on insurance due to this being so unique of an industry? I heard Penx only so far. Penx is the best insurance policy that you want to ever get. Judy Phobes, let me tell you a story about the insurance. 16 years ago, it was very hard for us, the people that created this industry, myself, Barb Schwartz, Jenny Norris, a lot of people that were out there, Dream Team, Christine Ray, to get everybody, to the insurance brokers, to understand our business. That you're not a decorator. They couldn't really put us in any kind of category. So I worked with some people in the past. So have the other training providers worked with people in the past, and they never quite got it. And then I met this angel of a woman named Judy. And she did the work. She worked with me directly to get as much information as we possibly could about the industry. She's approached the underwriters. It is only because of the collective buying power and our collectiveness as a group, as RESA, the trade association, that we actually have great insurance now for home stagers. She knows the insurance, and she's actually the dedicated rep for the Hartford with their staging program. So you can get your general liability insurance through Judy. But again, Judy's insurance policy that you get, you can start out with that and you can grow. So if she'll have a standard policy that you can get, I think it's $500 or $600 a year. It's only going to cover so much. But as you grow, and here's a tip for you, every year you need to look at your business and say, did I buy more inventory? And do I need to tell Judy about it? Because what will happen is you will have a forest fire and everything will burn down and everything will get ruined. Staging inventory, everything, you're going to take a total loss. And when you go to your insurance carrier to make a claim and you say, I have got $75,000 worth of inventory, and you still got a starter policy and it only covers $10,000 worth of inventory, you just took a huge loss. So you always want to update your insurance person, your broker, about any new inventory, any new changes that you make to your company throughout the year. You've got to let them know. So Judy is the most educated person on the planet with regard to insurance for the staging industry. Highly recommend her. Okay, what else can I answer? Can I use 3D rendering? Let's talk about that. Virtual staging. RESA does not advocate for virtual staging. It's not something that we are going to get behind and endorse. We have committees within RESA where, we have stagers that volunteer for different committees to be able to go out and make some policy decisions and changes and whatnot. Virtual staging is one that they're taking on right now, and they're actually putting together a formal statement of RESA. to be able to talk about that. But I'm just going to kind of go over it in a nutshell. It's not staging, number one. It's an artist rendering or a 3D rendering. It doesn't accomplish the same thing. People try to use it in an effort not to pay for staging because they don't want to pay for it. And then they put it online. And then when the people get there, it's still a naked, empty house. So it's never going to do what staging can do, period, the end. It's just, if you get to the house and it's not staged, it's not staged. So we don't recommend it, but it's your choice if it's something, a service that you want to offer. Judy Phobes, Kim. Judy Phobes, Pen X. So it's, I'm going to type it here, penx.com. Judy Phobes. She's amazing. She's always also at RESACon. So if you go to RESACon, she's there. But if you need insurance, I wouldn't wait on it. Any other questions anybody has? We've had a really, really good interaction tonight. So thank you all for taking time out of your day and your evenings to be able to do this with me. I love being able to give the feedback to people and to help you. It's probably one of the best things about my job that I absolutely love doing. Thank you, Susan Kelly. I appreciate it. I'm a little bit different than some people. I know that I say some things that are shocking, and I do it for a reason. I'm actually a Robbins-Madonnas trained life coach. So I do a lot of what Tony Robbins does when he says things that will just shock the heck out of you. But once you say it, it makes people think. And it really, they're like, wow, I never really thought of it that way. So it kind of works for me. It's not for everybody, but if it's not for you, I apologize. I hope it was informative. Oh, New York. There you go. New Yorkers get me. They get me. New Jersey girls get me even more. I love it. So this is awesome. It's been a great time for me. I also love Tony. He's great. I actually saw him in person in October. I did a 4-hour, well, it was a 2-day event, but he was on for 4 hours. And I'm also an empath, so I feel people's energy. I had to leave. I absolutely love him, but it was overwhelming. I could literally feel hundreds of people energy around me, and it literally made my skin crawl. But he's amazing. But he's got so much energy. He's going to have you jumping up and down, and you're going to be thirsty and exhausted and the whole bit. But it was a great experience. All right, I think that's it, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Again, check us out, especially RESACon. You're never going to regret going to RESACon. Literally, when we do feedback on RESACon, I think last year we had one person that said they would not recommend RESACon to somebody. And when all the other people that take the survey said they do, it's like, wow, it makes you wonder what was wrong, what happened with that person, what kind of space were they in? And unfortunately, they did it anonymous, so I can't help them. But it's very highly regarded. Check out the pictures online. The website's going to be up. Hopefully Monday, you'll see an announcement coming out all over social media, and we'll also email it out to everybody. So again, thank you for joining and taking some time out of your night tonight. Until next time, happy staging.